Dad's like, yeah, he's here to pick up the car. And I think he was joking, but he's like, oh, which one? So growing up, I'd always been a bit of a car enthusiast. Absolutely had the dream of one day wanting to own a supercar. And it was always just, the stereotypical latest and greatest from Lamborghini, Ferrari, whatever. As I kind of grew up, and I like to say a lot, I grew up on YouTube. Like I didn't have TV growing up or anything like that. Like YouTube was my thing. And so I watching all these YouTube channels, I loved them, and seeing people like Stradman. I remember distinctly him getting that Gallardo and making that video. That thumbnail is in my neighborhood where I grew up, and I recognized that and watched it, and like that's so ingrained in my brain. These cars were so special to me, but after enough YouTube videos, seeing like some young YouTuber goes out and buys this, flashy latest and greatest from Ferrari car or whatever. I guess it kind of got old. Not that the cars are any worse or better or anything like that, but it's just like, I think I want something different from this. So when I got to the situation where I could afford one, what I wanted had changed. And I hadn't, I guess, realized that until the point. So I had a hard time pulling the trigger on something like a 458, which is something that I would really loved. It's reasonably priced, reasonable to maintain, holds its value. It's an amazing car. Wanted one, but it just kind of, I guess, didn't fit too right. Long story short, eventually Stradman's Ford GT comes up for sale. I'm like, there's a car that I can really get behind. That's a classic car that's universally loved. It's not about the hype. It's not about anything. It's just about the car. And it's a cool car with a cool backstory. So I really quickly realized that was more what I was into. So I got that. I ended up getting Ed's Diablo, the RWB, all with these crazy backstories, but I never had the hype car, the latest and greatest, the McLaren, the Ferrari, the Lamborghini. I never had one of those. They're better cars, objectively. They're nicer. If it's newer, it's going to have less maintenance issues in general. So it's like, it would be so nice to have a car that just works, that goes crazy fast, and is something that is just a state-of-the-art masterpiece. Obviously that what's impressive changes as time goes on. I want something that's new today. Lo and behold, the opportunity comes up. I'm talking to Post Malone's dad, Rich Post. He is a mutual friend of mine at this point. He's got the McLaren 720S. It's mentioned in his song, Wow, 720S Bumpin' Fall Out Boy. He has a lease on that. And I find out from that friend that lease is going to expire soon. Just Josh Aries, my friend of mine who is friends with Rich. I also know from Josh that he doesn't drive the McLaren. In fact, it's not even registered in Utah. It's got a 2019 expired registration. He's got all these other cars to deal with. I find out later from Rich that the reason for that was because there was some paperwork annoyance with getting it registered, so they just didn't really bother, and they didn't drive it too much, so they weren't too worried about it. I get connected with Rich, talk to him, and say, hey, when that comes off lease, I'd be more than happy to buy it. We ended up meeting up and getting to know each other a little bit. Rich is the coolest guy. If you follow his Twitter or see him in any interviews, there's a very universal appreciation for Post Malone. I feel like if you read any comments on any Post Malone related thing, he's such a sweetheart. What a respectful, nice young man. He's so, I don't know, funny, genuine, whatever. All of those same things are true about Rich. He's just a really nice dude. He's very fun to talk to. He's got so many stories. So just an interesting person to talk to. And he's just like, yeah, Patrick, I'll sell you the McLaren. Why don't you come up and test drive it one day? And so that's what we agreed upon. A couple weeks go by. We find a good day for it to work out. I go up there with my friend Alex, and he does detailing for Post Malone's cars. We go and we test drive it, and it was, I don't know, it was amazing. It was the coolest car. And Rich didn't even, he handed us the keys and said, go have fun. So we went and we took it out. I had Alex drive it around for me first. I've never driven anything nearly this fast or powerful. It's rear-wheel drive, scary, and I'm of course, adrenaline rushing. This is a very crazy experience. The car is crazy. It's insane, super valuable. I'm probably going to be buying it. So I don't want to be the one to put this into a wall. So Alex takes me for a drive in it, and it's just wild. It's absolutely, I've never been in a car that fast. I do not have that much experience in fast cars. Eventually, we pull over, we switch spots. I take it for a little drive. Such an awesome, amazing car. We take it back, talk to Rich, and I say like, hey, I think I want it. Let's make it happen. The lease isn't even over at this point, but he's just like, all right, great, Patrick, let's go from there. We'll figure this lease out. When it expires, we'll have you get it. It's like, okay, great. And then began a very, very long process of the lease expiring, having to get the title from McLaren, the dealership that they were working with. That whole process took way too long. And then the title ends up getting sent to, I think, like the wrong address for like a different LLC or something like that. And so it's just this big mix up. Meanwhile, I'm waiting like 6 months for this car that I agreed to buy. And so it's the most like painful game of waiting. But eventually the day comes, the car is ready. I get all of my stuff on my end sorted out. The day is here, but I've got kind of this feeling of just like, man, everything up until this point has been like, oh, it's going to be another week. Oh, it's probably going to be another 2 weeks. And then 6 months later, it's been 6 months. So we go up there. I get to meet Post Malone. He was very, very nice. We talked for a couple of minutes. Eventually, his dad's like, yeah, he's here to pick up the car. And I think he was joking, but he's like, oh, which one? And he's like, oh, the McLaren. And then he's like, oh, dang, that's one of my favorite cars. Well, at least it's going to a cool new owner. And I was like, yeah, I'm special. Like, he's only known me for a couple minutes, but he's just making me feel good. It was funny. It was hilarious. So we get all of the title and paperwork and stuff figured out. But then there's some construction going on at his house. There's just like some equipment in the way. The car's like dusty. It'd be hard to get out. And it's raining outside. It's not good for like a test drive or anything like that. I had this feeling going into it. I was like, even though I know there's nothing that can go wrong, I have this feeling that I'm not going to drive away with that car today. And sure enough, yeah. And it wasn't a big deal. I wasn't worried. It was one day later. We went up the next day and we were able to get the car. I took it out for a test drive with Rich in it. He told me a little bit about some stories in it. It was one of his favorite cars. He said, I think other than the Chiron, it was his favorite car. It checks so many boxes. It's such an amazing machine, especially for the price that it's at. It's got like almost hypercar level performance. It's really nice as long as it's not broken, and because it's new, it's not really going to be breaking anytime soon, fingers crossed anyways. So as long as it stays mechanically sound, that car's crazy special, crazy cool. Anyways, we go on the test drive, we come back, I get the front trunk signed by Post Malone, and I had him draw me some jorts on the front hood. No real rhyme or reason. I was like, hey, can you draw me some jorts? And so he drew me a beautiful pair of jorts on there and put a nice little heart around it. The whole thing, it's hilarious. The hood had been like waxed or something like that, so the Sharpie wasn't sticking super well. So the whole thing's just kind of very, the jorts are very like, sketched jorts in 3 seconds. Like it's all very rough around the edges, and that's what's so hilarious about the whole thing in general. It didn't go on very well, and it's perfect. It turned out great. And I got the car, I drove it away back home, and it was, I don't know, it was just this cool, surreal experience, and I've owned it ever since. We've done a couple things to it, put the Valvetronic exhaust on it, we got a wrap, and then we've got a body kit coming, hoping to upgrade the turbos, tune it, and we've got a lot of stuff, wheels, the whole everything. So got a lot of fun plans in store for that car, and it's such a special, amazing vehicle. I'm really glad I was able to get a new latest and greatest machine. So I bought the car. I did get to meet Post Malone along the way, but that was never like the goal or the intention. I was in the market for a new exotic car. I got a very fair deal on it. In the 6 months that it took from agreeing to buy it to the time that I actually took possession of it, due to the pandemic and the weirdness of that, it had appreciated considerably. And Rich didn't make me pay extra. He'd been offered higher offers for the car, but turned them down and didn't ask for a penny more than me. So that's just, I guess, kind of speaks to his character. And I was left with a really awesome deal. I got a great deal on a great car, and it happened to come with this amazing experience on the side. It was awesome.
We all love Amazon, but most of us have had that experience where you buy something with a lot of glowing reviews that shows up and it's just a piece of garbage, and it wasn't what you thought you were buying. Unfortunately, Amazon can be full of bad actors and fake reviews and things that just don't live up to what you think is going to come in a day or two after you order it. That's why New on Amazon has been developed. It was developed by Patrick Kupolari, a friend of the channel, a good storyteller who's talked about BMWs and McLaren F1s and things like that, and he's a huge e-commerce expert. and you can learn more about that on his YouTube channel. But he built a site of trusted sellers, well-reviewed products, and things that he actually knows will show up looking the way that you want them to. And so it's a great way to filter out some of the noise and some of the bad products that you might otherwise discover on Amazon. So check out New on Amazon at the link in the description below, and thank them for supporting VINwiki this month.